Welcome. This is the Ending the Silence presentation. This is the student portion, but we do have a parent version also that we do. So my name is Kari, and I have a child that was diagnosed at the age of 11 with bipolar disorder, and that was such a traumatic event for our family that I feel that this is like one of the best things that NAMI does now as far as education. It's education for the students to be able to realize what's going on, how they may be feeling, and especially now after going through pandemic, I really think it's, a huge awareness. Ooh, wrong thing. And there are videos, and all the videos were made by high school students, but in California. So I'm trying so hard to find a group around here that we could make videos.
Don't they get it? I get depressed about everything. No one feels like I do.
My brother's autistic. No one knows what that's like.
I've been bipolar my whole life. It's so hard, my friends and family.
I have anorexia. I can't tell anyone.
I get so anxious. I can't stand it. No one ever seems to care.
My OCD knows everybody. I don't have any friends.
And suicide. Would anyone care if I were gone?
I know what you mean.
Sometimes I feel the same way.
Yeah, that's totally me.
Thanks for having my back.
I don't know how many times I've presented this, but I was just doing it in March for St. Ed's to really pay attention. Those kids are thinking those things in the very beginning of the video when they're going through. They are only thinking those things, and then at the end they come into, and I've never noticed that before. So what is mental health? We all have mental health. You couldn't live your day without it, really. But being mentally healthy means being able to enjoy things in life, make good decisions, and basically just be happy with the things that you are doing and having that capability of dealing with the things that are stressful. And we do that, by maintaining our good mental health. So what would be some ways that we could keep our mental health sort of stabilized? What are some good things to do?
Exercise.
Yep, exercise is great, yes.
Sleep.
Sleep, Eating healthy. Anything else? Pardon? Draw? Yes, for sure. Doing things that make you happy, but it can keep you so that you have less stress, possibly. But, it's maintaining healthy habits. So mental health conditions are medical conditions just like any other physical illness. So like someone that has diabetes or, someone maybe that has asthma. But mental illnesses or mental health conditions can change the way a person thinks about things and the way they act. But we want you to know that they are treatable, and they are very, very common. We say 1 in 5 adults can have a diagnosable mental illness in a given year. And due to pandemic, they are changing the numbers a little bit, and it's going to about 1 in 3 people have a mental health condition. But what they are not is anybody's fault. No one causes anyone to have a mental health condition. They are nothing to be ashamed of, and we want you to know that you can still achieve anything in your life that you want to.
Mental illness is as common as someone with dirty blonde hair or hazel eyes. In fact, 1 in 4 people in the USA alone experience a mental illness every year. That's more than 57 million people. 2/3 of those people never seek professional help. Many don't know where to go or fear discrimination. But we can change this by simply becoming a friend and lending out a hand to those in need.
So in that video, there were some numbers that were talked about. Can anybody share or remember what numbers? There were 4 sets of numbers that.
1 in 4 people.
Yes.
1 in 3. You're saying 1 in 3 now.
Yeah. There was a large amount. Yep, very good. Excellent. Yes, 57 million people in a given year, or in the US, have a diagnosed mental illness, and 2/3 of those people do not get help. So can anybody give me an idea of why someone would not get help? Okay, yep.
Maybe thinking you can't be helped.
Okay, yep. Right, exactly. A lot of times people think that there's nothing really wrong with them. And then one of our bigger reasons is the stigma, but we have to pay attention to the facts that 1 in 5 youth in the United States have or will have a mental illness in a given year or at some point in their life. 50% of kids between the age of 8 and 15 that have a mental health condition don't get treatment. And stigma is our biggest reason for not getting treatment. So, does anybody know what stigma is? A negative term, yes, for mental illness. It's a negative term for anything, really, but yes, a negative term for mental illness.
Fear of that you're going to be labeled
Okay,
an outcast.
right. What would be some other reasons, though, that people don't get help? Okay.
Isolation.
How about finances or not knowing the resources also to where to go? Financial part can really be a huge part of things also. But stigma is labels or bullying, putting that discrimination on someone. So we want you to be aware of the warning signs. So these are signs that, you might be struggling. You may notice this in a friend or a family member. So feeling very sad for more than 2 weeks. Now, we all feel sad at some point in time. We may lose someone that's very close to us. We may have a relationship that goes bad. But when it starts to interfere with your day-to-day for longer after 2 weeks of a period of time, it's really an important thing to find someone to talk to about it. And that does not mean that we would run immediately to a therapist or, a doctor or psychiatrist, but talk to somebody. We want you to talk to an adult, find someone that you're able to be comfortable with and relate to. For taking severe out of control behavior risks and things. Fear for no reason, hearing or believing things that aren't there. Drastic changes in mood or behavior. Sleep habits are really a huge part of a lot of mental illnesses. And like for myself, with my son that was diagnosed, he totally reversed his sleep habits where he started sleeping all day and would stay up all night. And that was a huge part of things that we had to change because we could not get him up for school. He didn't graduate because he couldn't change that sleep cycle. And we attempted every different type of a doctor that we could go to that was referred to us to work on his sleep habits, and nothing worked. So maybe you're having trouble concentrating, and sure, we all have that too. We might be really excited about some things, but when it's still, again, something that starts going on, and you just start having trouble in school, your grades are failing because you're not able to really concentrate. Having fears or worries about things, using alcohol or drugs. That is another portion that we went through with my son. So by the time he was 15, he was diagnosed as an alcoholic. And then trying to harm someone, themselves or someone else, being, a danger to themselves or doing, something to someone else. Did I lose a video? Come on. I knew I lost something.
I feel insecure around people.
I want to eat, but I won't.
I'm trying to fill this emptiness inside.
I need to make everything perfect.
I feel so alone.
Because I never reach out and people ignore me.
I was just afraid to talk about it.
People teased me and discriminated against me.
It seemed like no one was there for me.
I was trying to get away from our problems.
Every day was a challenge.
But I realized I didn't have to do it alone.
My friends and family were there to support me.
Mental illness is extremely common. 1 in 5 American youth live with a diagnosis of mental health challenge. Support from friends and loved ones is the best way to overcome stigma and discrimination. If you are struggling with a mental health challenge, don't be afraid to talk about it. Come join the conversation and get support at www.checkhere.com.
So in that video, we saw all the kids were talking about their illnesses. As they were running out, their illnesses were labeled over their heads. Would anybody have any idea of the significance of that? Exactly. Very good. It is, it's something that is, a part, but we want to see the person first. As they are, even though they may have some issues or conditions, they are a person first, and we need to really relate to people as that person first. So what you can do is talk to a trusted adult. Maybe more than one if necessary. A lot of times it might not be your parent that is the first person you reach out to, but being able to have somebody in maybe the school, a counselor, or maybe a school coach, someone that you're able to speak with and at least share what's going on. Maybe it's going to be an aunt or a relative in the family, but not a parent. Talking to a friend. Sending a message to someone who cares about you. When I want to check up on my son a little bit, I'll ask my daughter, give your brother a call. Let's see what he's doing, what's going on with him. And she'll say, Mom, I don't know how many times I'm going to tell you, we don't call, we text. And I said, no, we're not texting. I would like you to give him a call. Because just by hearing his voice, I can tell where he's at in his mind in that day. We need to be able to relate to people, and check up by calling them or seeing them in person. There was a football player that took his life, and all of his friends and other football players were very, very upset by the fact that they did not connect with him. If only I would have gone over and checked up, visited, or if I would have made that phone call. They were communicating, they were texting, but you cannot tell in someone's voice when you're texting what's going on. So just once in a while to be able to check in on somebody and talk to them. Calling NAMI is always a very good resource. So knowing the warning signs of suicide. And we want you to know if someone needs immediate attention if they're talking or writing about death. When my son was 11, he was already seeing a therapist, and it was not until I had been changing sheets and I had seen all of the writing and the drawing and the poems he had written about not wanting to be here that I realized that I needed to get him into a psychiatrist, and talk therapy wasn't working, so that we knew that I needed further assistance, and we had to, go a different route. So if I wouldn't have paid attention to all of that, or if I wouldn't have seen it, I would probably say he would not be here today. So talking about things like having no reason to be here, or, well, after next Tuesday, you don't have to worry about me, I won't be here to worry about. So, looking for ways to attempt suicide, giving away things, behaving reckless. And alcohol and drugs is a big part of a way to behave reckless for kids. So what you can do to avoid, situations is you have to take action immediately. We want you to ask that question if you're thinking about suicide, or are you planning suicide? There was a myth for years and years that we don't talk about it, because if we talk about it or ask a question, then we're putting that idea into someone's mind. And that is so far from the truth. Now we know that asking that question can be huge for someone, just for them to realize that somebody is there and is able to ask that question, or cares enough about them, or even notices that something is going on. We don't ever want to leave anybody alone that might be actively suicidal. Call someone. When you're in school, you have your phones. You're able to, make that phone call. When you're outside, everyone pretty much has a cell phone now. So we want you to use that phone and call for help. And don't ever hesitate to call 911 if you feel that is the situation, because it is so important to get help for that person immediately. And a lot of times with kids, we want to keep things confidential. We want, everything is quiet, it's a secret. They're friends. But this is one thing that we do not ever keep secret. You always need to find somebody to talk to about this.
This was the first day we met. I knew right away that you were going to be a big part of my life. We had so many good times. But this was the day you started acting different. You isolated yourself. You were sad all the time. I thought you were ignoring me. But when I saw your wrists, I knew it was much more than that. I knew I had to talk to an adult, so you could get the help that you needed. And today is the day we appreciate the life that could have been lost.
Not every friendship has a tomorrow. If someone you know is showing signs of suicide, talk to an adult or call the suicide prevention lifeline, because suicide can be prevented.
So these are symptoms, things that make the illness or the condition better. So getting into treatment. There are so many different kinds of therapy now. How many have a pet? Do you find that your pet helps you in just having less stress some days? I know they're a lot of work, but it is really such a great thing to be able to sit down and just pet your dog or your cat and just relax, not do not have to do anything. Art therapy is really becoming a very big thing. It's really excellent to be able to not just do traditional therapy where you're talking, but be able to put things in art. Medication is used, but not all the time is at the first line of any kind of treatment. So don't think because you might be diagnosed with depression that you're going to have to immediately go on medication. The earlier you can get into any treatment, the better. Earlier we talked about being healthy or using healthy coping skills, and these are all positive coping skills. So we've talked about, eating properly and getting enough sleep and exercise, which are huge, huge parts of things. But how about listening to music? Does anyone listen to music? Yes. Music is the greatest thing. When I was dealing with my son in the beginning, I used to feel like I was going to have a stroke every day on my way to work, just because of the behaviors that we went through every single day. I would get in my car on my way to work, blare my radio, and I would say, you know, this is not something that I should be telling students that they should be blaring their car radios, but it was my sanity to get myself into a different place before I would get to my job. So sometimes we have to really do different things to get ourselves into a better mindset. But music is really huge. So what does music do for you? How do you feel when you listen to music? Yeah, it calms you down. Very good. Just listening to different, you know, tempos or beats, you know, can get you, you know, sort of revved up. You know, do you feel like dancing when you hear music? Yeah. So those are all positive things. But when in school, joining a club in your school, being active in school and hanging with friends, you know, just taking time to do nothing but hang out. Not where you're playing a sport for a competition, just doing things for fun. And these are all ways to maintain a positive coping strategies in health. So do you recognize anybody in this picture or in this collage? Mm-hmm. Yep. I know the very first one people usually knows is JFK, yeah. Alicia Keys is there, yeah. Yeah. Alicia Keys is here. Adam Levine. Demi Lovato's up there. Brandon Marshall, this is JFK, Lady Gaga. But these are all people that are succeeding in their life, but what do you think is the common denominator for all of them? Yep. They all live with a mental health condition or have lived since JFK is no longer here, but they've all been able to do what they wanted to in their life, achieve what they wanted to. A lot of them make really good money if you think that that's important. You know, so just because they have a mental health condition does not mean that they stopped or were not able to do what they needed to do. So how you can help a friend is recognizing the signs, and that is why we're here doing the program, so that you know the signs. Encourage someone to talk to a trusted adult. Share resources. Help them stay positive. I know sometimes it's very difficult to stay positive in things that are going on, but I myself have positive affirmations that come into my private email and my work email every single solitary morning of my life, just so that I start out my day with something positive. Doesn't mean that it's going to make my whole day go perfectly, but at least I'm starting out that way. If you're able to, talk to someone if they need to get into treatment.
You are my friend. You are not a mental illness, because you cannot be defined by that, just as I cannot be defined by my race, gender, or sexuality. You can be defined by your strength, both literally and figuratively, and by your amazing sense of humor. You always know how to put a smile on my face. You can also be defined by your passion for music. There are endless definitions to who you are. Unfortunately, there are some people who would rather define us by what makes us different than them. However, you are more similar to me than many of those people are. I stand up for you because you deserve a lot better than you often endure. You are not your mental illness because that could have happened to anyone. You are uniquely you because of your character.
So if you took away anything from that video, what would that be? Mm-hmm. Very good. Yep. We, again, want to see people for the person that they are, that have many other characteristics of their life, like playing music or being artistic or, you know, just being fun to be around. So to reduce the stigma, we could talk about mental health issues with family and friends. How many of you feel that you have someone that you can talk to if you have something going on? And that is so important, to be able to have that relationship. I do a program in another school that I had spent a lot of time working with a young girl that her parents, her family did not listen to her. And she would constantly say, well, where do I go from here? What can I do? Because my parents won't listen to me. They think I'm doing this for attention. They, you know, don't want to hear anything about mental illness. And that is so bad. I mean, it is so wrong to have that in this year that we live in, because that is how I grew up. And it should not be in schools now for kids not to be able to talk to someone. So sharing links or resources, but make sure you call out people if they're using stigmatizing language. You know, we need to really change the language that we're using. We don't want to use the word crazy. You know, just changing words around. Green is our color for mental health awareness. But we want you to remember that mental health conditions are medical conditions. They affect your brain, which is a part of your body. They are no one's fault. And knowing the warning signs can make such a huge difference in the impact of your life or someone else's. You don't ever have to feel that you are alone, and recovery is possible. And you have the power to end the silence. And in my generation, you know, we didn't talk about things. Now it's getting talked about much more, and we really need to have you as youth coming up talk about these things, and you, again, have that power to end the silence.
Support at www.reachouthere.com.
So I always end my portion with letting people know that my son was diagnosed young. He's now 35. He still has his diagnosis. He still sees a therapist. He is married. He works for a living. He's a coder. He went through boot camp coding classes and is doing really well for himself. He still does need support, as far as sometimes monetarily, just to get him through. But you know, you can achieve anything that you want to and not put that limit to yourself. So hopefully you will be able to relate to other people and be there to help someone else. All righty.